Hello, lovely people. Welcome to Culver's Corner for another fortnight, for another go around, as we say. Today's a little slightly different approach for this one. I'm just rather excited. I've got a new paper published in the Australian Curriculum Studies Association's Curriculum Perspective. So it's very much teacher talk in teacher land, which is exciting to me. The title is Ancient Methods and Modern Memes Using Socratic Circles and TikTok Within Classes to Democratize Your Teaching. And of course, I am reading that because, as is the way with academic writing, you choose a really long title and you stick with that. So basically, the premise of this paper, you can go read it. It's open source, even if you're not an academic or working in a university or similar. Is that I reflected on my 12-year, 13 ongoing teaching career, and I've done my very best to sort of record my pedagogy. And that's something I think most teachers would benefit from, to be honest, but perhaps not in an academic article because it's taken me 3 or 4 years to sort of get this out. But so basically, if you imagine this as a little mathematics formula, I've got my pedagogical practice, and the pedagogical practice that I'm putting forward is that it should be accessible, it should be relevant, it should be efficient, and then, and only then, is there a possibility for a democratic sort of vision of education to emerge within the classroom. And now that's, to me, that's like something that's very grounded and very realistic. Like, I would love to just say, hey, everyone go out tomorrow and have a democratic classroom, have your students making decisions on things and have them, hearing the real world events and considering social justice issues and think about the ways that the world is inequitable and that things need to be fixed and do all that, but also, teach the curriculum we've been we get paid to deliver in our schools, be that, the New South Wales, Victorian or Australian curriculum, depending on where you're at. And so the focus very much is, as I said, grounded in that reality. We need to basically, there needs to be some gains made somewhere to make this possible. And so a lot of my techniques are based around that. So, for example, when we talk about being accessible to all, for me, that means using instructional video, which basically, using videos of other teachers or ourselves to deliver content to students to make our teaching a little bit more flexible. We can do it. Students can be accessing content when they're at home rather than just, relying on being in the room with me as the teacher. Accessible to all, of course, I'm talking about assistive technologies, and within the paper I give a pretty good coverage of the kind of things that I would suggest teachers are using within their teaching approach. And contentiously, generative artificial intelligence. So I think there's a real pathway forward that we should be perhaps not utilizing AI in our classrooms regularly, but at least having forays into it and discussing the kind of critical elements of it and challenges, and essentially because the world is using it, and so students need to be aware of how it works and what it does, its limitations and so forth, so they can, not be duped by it, if nothing else. The other principle, of course, is to make our classrooms relevant and current. And I think because, as an aging workforce of teachers, and myself included, we're never less relevant to the kids as we are today, and so on and so forth the next day and the day after that. And so I'm proposing that we make use of YouTube and TikTok to sort of bring current issues and events of the world into the classroom. Because that way we don't have to rely on being young and hip, which is something that, as I'm sure, if you're watching this in a video, you can tell from the bags under my eyes, is not the case for me, and it may not be the case for you. I want my pedagogy, or the pedagogy I'm proposing, to be efficient, and to do that we're talking flipped learning, so that's leveraging instructional video in a way that students can access at home using retrieval practice, which is a very fancy phrase I'm sure I've talked about on Culver's Corners before, about getting students to actually tap into the knowledge that they have in their brains to make sure it's concrete and they can get it back in exam conditions or test conditions and so forth, and making learning efficient through the method of loci, which is basically going out into the world, mapping memories to places, to things, to your hands, to your fingers, to, physical objects, to gestures that you make, those sort of things, to make our learning actually possible. In terms of, and then the goal, of course, is to make it democratic. And the main method I found useful for doing that is using Socratic circles as a classroom activity and more broadly a Socratic approach. So if any of these ideas appeal to you, or you want to go and read about my justifications for why all this works and read the read the kind of referencing that backs it up and says, hey, this is legit, I swear, search up my name somewhere, Stephen, Steven, Kolber, Kolber, or the words ancient and modern memes would also get you there as well. But in short, it's basically my best attempt at trying to say, here's a pedagogy we could be using to reach the goal of a democratic classroom, which is something, of course, I've co-edited a book on and I think is deeply important, both to me personally and I think to our education system going forward. So I commend you to go seek it out if any of these ideas appeal, or if you've heard me talk about them before on this podcast, that might be another reason to seek it out. But as I said, open source, so anyone can get it, and it costs $0. Thanks for your time. Until next time, keep reading, keep writing, keep learning.